Chapter 37. Act 2. I waited on the pier with the officers while Ronnie grabbed her purse.
"Are you wearing those for religious purposes?"
Officer Clark nodded toward my hands. What? I looked at my hands in confusion. In the heat of the moment, I'd forgotten I was still wearing the dishwashing gloves. No, of course not. Is that a thing around here?
"I'm going to have to ask you to remove them,"
Officer Clark said,
"along with any other weapons or articles of concealment."
As I peeled off the gloves, Ronnie returned with a bulging messenger bag. Officer Musa insisted on searching it for weapons, or worse, foreign biological material. He blushed when he pulled out a lacy yellow thong. "You need all that for a blood test?" I asked Ronnie.
"I know what I'm doing,"
Ronnie insisted, shouldering her bag.
"You forget. I've been arrested before."
How could I forget? It was the catalyst for my existence. I deadpanned.
"Again, ma'am, you're not being arrested."
Officer Clark held open the wall door for us.
"The name's Ronnie, by the way."
Ronnie extended her hand to him as she passed.
"Maybe if you cut out all this ma'am stuff, I'll be more convinced you're not arresting us."
Officer Clark ignored her hand.
"It's against force regulations to engage in any unnecessary physical contact, ma'am."
Ronnie rolled her eyes as we stepped through the door onto loud Aquarian soil. Panouche, it was dismal. I couldn't see what made Officer Musa so proud of the proud island of loud Aquaria. To me, it looked like a slum. Thousands of tiny square houses were packed practically on top of one another. Their walls were made of gritty brown bricks, and their roofs were made of patchy corrugated tin draped in tattered tarps. The dirt streets were narrow and littered with broken glass. Tangled webs of black electrical wires hung between buildings. Away in the northwest, the tall glass skyline glittered like a distant dream. Everything here was either grayish-brown or brownish-gray. The only colorful thing in sight was a bright purple Freedom Force pod. It looked like a giant wheeled eggplant. I tried not to giggle as Officer Musa opened the back door for us. It just looked so absurd, especially in these bleak surroundings. The pod's purple color scheme extended through its interior. Even the thick glass divider between the front and rear seats was reinforced with purple metal lattice. Officer Musa slid open a window in the glass divider.
"It is a nice pod, eh?"
he asked with a grin.
"Top of the line with cutting-edge surveillance features. You've never been in a pod like this."
He paused to consider.
"Or have you never been in a pod at all? Do they even have pods in Eridette?"
I grasped a bright purple armrest in shock as my entire worldview shifted. "Wait, you know about Eridette?" I asked. "Are there other people here from Eridette?"
"Everyone knows about your war-torn sard hole of a continent."
Officer Clark tapped an order into the dashboard console.
"But we haven't seen any refugees in years. We figured you lot had finally succeeded in self-extermination." "Excuse me?"
Ronnie exclaimed as the pod began cautiously rolling down the narrow dirt street.
"I'll have you know, the Eridetian Civil War ended over 50 years ago. And for the record, Eridette is leaps and bounds ahead of this sard hole of an island. At least we don't have slums."
Officer Clark looked supremely unimpressed as he swiveled his chair toward us.
"Then why did you leave?"
He smirked. "Someone wrote me a message on a Panosyn boat," I answered confidently. "They invited me to come and see the world."
Uh-huh.
Officer Clark clicked his tongue in disdain.
"Everyone knows those boats were built as an escape route from Eridette. If you get on them, you're trying to escape from something or someone. So who was it?"
He looked directly at Ronnie, arms crossed.
"An old boyfriend? Maybe your newbie's deadbeat dad?"
Ronnie's hackles rose to meet his bait. "So, where is everyone?" I interjected, cutting off Ronnie's impending explosion. "It looks like thousands of people live here, but I haven't seen a single person on the streets."
"They are all at work," Officer Musa sounded relieved by the change of topics. We have many factories in eastern Kibori.
I thought you said this place was called Loud Aquaria.
The island is Loud Aquaria,
Officer Musa clarified.
This city, our grand capital, is Kibori.
For the rest of the ride to the processing center, Officer Musa controlled the conversation by acting as our tour guide.
Over there is the bug market. In it you can find everything from scorpion sticks to lamb testicles. People go there to make food challenge videos for Surfer, very popular. Across the river is Khalifa Park, once a winter resort for the ruling families. It has lovely statue gardens. Some believe its hot springs have restorative properties, very peaceful. And that is the headquarters of the Mbeki Corporation. They built a glass slide between the 90th and 85th floors to attract rural tourists. Very scary.
The city improved as we journeyed northwest toward the tall glass towers. The streets were now wide and paved. Well-trimmed trees shaded the sidewalks. The buildings were clean and painted in welcoming pastels. Smartly dressed people strolled through parks or wandered into small boutique shops. Our pod rolled to a stop in front of an imposing 5-story concrete structure. Carved above its grand columned entryway were the words Greater Kiborian Processing Center.
Now tell me, ma'am, does this fine edifice look like a detention center to you?
Officer Clark asked Ronnie.
More like a courthouse,
Ronnie huffed.
And if I know anything about court proceedings, we're definitely not getting out of here by dinner. This is where we will leave you.
Officer Musa popped open the back door for us with a button.
Our fellow officers will guide you through the processing.
Sure enough, 2 more purple-uniformed officers approached us down the building's wide marble steps.
Try not to create an international incident, ma'am,
Officer Clark told Ronnie as she and I stepped out of the pod. He closed the pod's doors behind us, and it zoomed away. Officer Clark hadn't been lying about refugees getting preferential status. Our uniformed escorts led us past long lines of nervous-looking newbies straight through a door labeled Genetic Profiling.
Afternoon, Dolores.
One of the officers greeted a large woman sitting behind the receptionist desk.
We've got a treat for you today. 2 refugees with foreign genomes. Good luck labeling these ones.
Dolores couldn't be bothered to glance up from her digiscreen. She looked like someone who'd expected to marry out of work a long time ago.
Whoop-de-damn-do, she deadpanned.
More paperwork. Take him to Dr. Tenku.
He's messing around with that splicer thingy in room 4.
She pointed one pudgy green acrylic-nailed finger to her left. Her eyes never left her screen. Ronnie and I were led down a sterile white hallway. Our officer escort tapped on a large oak door. It was immediately flung open by a short, pale man in a light blue lab coat.
"Magnificent!" he exclaimed when he saw us. "Simply magnificent! What a fascinating mixture of race! Come in, come in. I simply must figure out what you are."
"We're human." Ronnie eyed the ebullient doctor skeptically.
Of course, of course,"
Dr. Tenku placated, ushering us forward.
"But what kind?"
Skin color was not openly discussed in Eridet. It was something you noticed, of course, like height or weight or nose size, but it wasn't a defining factor in anyone's formal identity. It was just one of the many interesting individual traits a person picked up from their Genesis pool. Back on Eridet, I'd learned a lot about genetics from the books Dr. Vincent had assigned me. One of the coolest things I'd learned was that the Genesis pools retained DNA traces from every single person who'd ever added blood to them. That's why I wasn't a clone of Ronnie. Let me explain. Humans have 46 chromosomes that come in 23 matching pairs. Each chromosome is packed with genes to determine every part of us, such as hair type, eye color, height, and so on. 2 or more versions of each gene are needed for full function, but sometimes one is expressed more strongly than the other. Other times, a blend is expressed in the final product, like plants with red and white flowers making pink ones in the next generation. When Ronnie added her blood to the Genesis pool, the pool split her chromosome pairs in half. The cells that would eventually become me floated around in the Genesis pool with only 23 chromosomes each, looking for matches. My DNA formed when Ronnie's 23 chromosomes bonded with 23 other chromosomes already floating around the Genesis pool. That meant I was half Ronnie and half... well, scientists didn't really know. My non-Ronnie chromosomes could all be from the same person, or from 23 different people, or from any number of people in between. Maybe I had 5 genetic parents. Maybe I had 24. No one really knew. I'd read all the books Dr. Vincent had recommended to me, but none of them gave a definitive answer. Scientists still hadn't figured out exactly what happened inside the Genesis pools, but they knew this mixing of genes led to something they called hybrid vigor, meaning healthy humans resulted. The mixing of genes also blurred racial lines. No one in Eridet was completely black or white. Everyone was some shade of brown. But here in Loud Aquaria, things were different. Dr. Tenku ran samples of our blood through all sorts of machines. He seemed simultaneously frustrated and excited by the results. Ronnie and I sat in uncomfortable silence as he muttered things like,
"But if this chromosome 15 has predominantly OCA2 and this one has more HERC2, then why does the offspring have blue eyes?"
At last, Ronnie's patience ran out.
"So, are we diseased or not?"
she demanded.
"I beg your pardon?"
Dr. Tenku looked genuinely confused.
"I thought we were here to see if we were carriers of foreign diseases."
Ronnie crossed her arms in annoyance.
"Oh, yes,"
Dr. Tenku answered distractedly.
"That was the first test. You're clear. That one," he said, pointing to me, "had antibodies for Berngai fever, but she's not an active carrier."
"So we can leave then,"
Ronnie said. It wasn't a question. She was already reaching for her bag. The officers who'd escorted us here had not followed us into Dr. Tenku's office. No one would stop us from walking out. Dr. Tenku looked momentarily panicked.
"Oh, no,"
he gushed.
"I haven't yet figured out your breed."
"Our what?"
Ronnie squared her shoulders toward him and narrowed her eyes.
"Your breed,"
Dr. Tenku repeated, looking confused by Ronnie's hostility.
"Everyone needs to know their breed. How else will you know where you fit in society and which Genesis pools you can use?"
"That's it. We're done."
Ronnie stomped toward the door.
"Come on, Emily, let's get out of here."
I rose to follow my host.
All right, calm down," Dr. Tenku said. "I can see there are some cultural differences between our islands, but genetic lineage is very important here on Loud Aquaria. If I mark you as mixed, you'll never be allowed to host."
Ronnie turned to me.
"You want to have a newbie here, kid?"
I gaped at her, utterly blindsided. I was only 1 year old. I hadn't even thought about hosting yet. I'd always sort of assumed I'd have a newbie or two when I grew up, but that was so far in the future. I said intelligently.
"Good, me neither,"
Ronnie said tersely.
"Bye, doctor."
With that, she marched out the door. "Done already?" Dolores droned as Ronnie stormed past. Her bored tone implied she didn't particularly care. "I've been told to send you to stress management."
"Why, do I look stressed to you?"
Ronnie seethed through gritted teeth. "Not my job to decide." Dolores inspected her long green acrylic nails with an expression of supreme disinterest. "That's why stress management exists." The waiting room door opened, and our uniformed escort reappeared. "You ladies ready to take your smat?" the female officer asked, looking genuinely enthusiastic about her job and life in general.
"No, I'm ready to leave this detention center and stop being tested like an exotic animal,"
Ronnie snapped.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear you've had a negative experience.
The officer looked truly crestfallen.
But I can assure you that here at the processing center, we're committed to helping people find their true identity in the easiest, most relaxing way possible. Yet you need a stress management department.
Ronnie mumbled under her breath. Sorry, I interjected. What exactly is a SMAT and why do you want us to take it?
Oh, right, you wouldn't know.
The female officer said with a breathy little laugh.
SMAT stands for Stress Management Assessment Test. It's quite exciting, actually. Newbies from all over the island look forward to their first month day when they get to go to their local processing center to take their SMAT.
It's a VR simulation,
the other officer elaborated.
You get strapped into a rig and put through a bunch of high-sensory scenarios. Your biochemical readouts are then sent to the Identity Council so they can decide what kind of job you'll be good at.
Strapped into a rig and put through a bunch of high-sensory scenarios, Ronnie repeated sarcastically. Sounds very easy and relaxing.
Oh, it is, the female officer gushed. Sometimes on my lunch breaks, I'll get in one of the virtual reality rigs and pretend I'm at the beach. It looks and feels so real. They even pump in ocean smells and stuff to trick your brain into believing you're really there.
You know, there's a real ocean like 20 minutes down the street, Ronnie snarked. And no one monitors your biochemicals while you're there. Besides, I don't need some identity council to tell me what I'm good at. I already know what I'm good at. Baking and fighting injustice. That's pretty much my whole thing.
I placed my hand gently on my host's arm. Let's just go see what these VR rigs look like. I couldn't understand why Ronnie was being so antagonistic toward everyone here. I knew she wasn't a fan of big government, but this didn't seem any worse than the onboarding process in Eridet. Honestly, this virtual reality test sounded way cooler than the aptitude test I'd taken with Leslie, the guidance counselor. At least the SMAT didn't seem to have story problems about donuts.
Fine, Ronnie sighed, but I refuse to get strapped into one of those things.
Less than an hour later, I watched as Ronnie happily danced around an immersion chamber in a full VR sensory rig. If she hadn't been lost in her own virtual world, she would have yelled at me for smirking.